paper it's an exploratory study of optimism and how that can overcome challenge of project management in the work environment. It was written by Dolphy and Andrews and was published in February 2007. I want to start by guiding you through the outline of my presentation. First, I want to give you a short summary of the article. Then I want to look at the methodology used in the paper, look at the findings made in the paper, and what conclusions came out of it, before I offer some of my alternative perspectives and give you some of my recommendations. And I want to finish off by telling you a bit about how I want to apply this in my real life and future career. So, a summary of the article. Personality characteristics of project managers have been studied, but they have so far eluded a conclusive understanding of the motivations of project managers, and especially regarding to work environments. If we look at obstacles in the work environment, current research looked at the optimism of project managers, and if optimism, whether it's innate or it's learned, could allow project managers to overcome impediments, or obstacles is an easier word for it, associated with the work environment. So, I've been given a brief article summary. We'll look at the methodology used in the paper. They've used a literature review where they look at testing methods and different ways of looking at personality traits. They used like the Myers-Briggs type indicator that we used earlier this autumn. They looked at the Big Five. They looked at the Enneagram, and all of these are different types of measuring your preferences when working. What they conclude with is that one size does not fit all. We're all personal people and we're all different. And the one that they worked the most on was the Myers-Briggs. I don't know if you know it, but it looks at the extroversion and introversion. They measure your preference for sensing and intuition, the thinking and feeling, and the judging and perceiving. Turner and Miller said that to be a successful project manager, you must have emotional intelligence rather than just being a pure tactician. And what was raised as an important question throughout the literature review was raised by Gosling et al., where he looked at whether the environment shapes the personality or people select environments that reinforce their personalities. I didn't see that they come to a clear conclusion, but what they did say, there was a man named Thornley who proved that project managers are more effective in carrying out project planning when they have a positive attitude toward it, which I find quite interesting. Looking at the actual questionnaire, they asked 858 project managers, and they were all from the North of America. And a quite interesting thing about this is that the respondents were only told that the service was related to work environment. They didn't actually know that they were measuring optimism and pessimism. And the reason why they did this is to not get a biased answer where they give you the answer that you're looking for. And having said that, I want to show you some of the findings from the article. This shows the correlation between optimism and work environment characteristics. They say that optimism is an important attribute, as only 7% of the optimists rated their work environment as negative, whilst if we look at the pessimists, a total of 60% rated their work environment as negative. And we can see that this has a great effect on you, and if you're not happy at work, it's going to affect like your life quality and other issues and surroundings in your life. The concluding remarks of the paper is that a key finding is that tenure of experience in the work environment can affect the level of optimism. And these findings suggest that optimism can be learned, even if you're in an unfavourable work environment where you're not actually happy. And it also suggests new avenues for the training and personal development of project managers to better cope with their unique work environment. The way we always talk about that every project is unique and how you need to adapt every time you go on to a new project and you have new people working with you. Looking at some of the critiques they had in their conclusion. All the project managers were from North America, so it's a narrow geographic field they've actually been exploring in. And optimism was not equated with nor project success or project type, which I find quite strange, because then it doesn't help if you have a good work environment and you're having a great lot of fun before your projects fail. and they did not equate optimism with leadership style. So, having given you some of the article, I want to offer you some of my alternative views. I've looked at motivation theory within leadership, and I've looked at McGregor's two perspectives, where the Theory X leader look at his employees as they're lazy, they avoid responsibility, and they dislike their work in general. Whilst Theory Y leader look at their employees as they're creative, they're independent, they want to do achievements, and they enjoy responsibility. And this has kind of helped me to grasp the actual article, where I kind of don't know if it's right, but I kind of feel that the pessimistic leader you will find with Theory X leaders more, and the more optimistic and positive leader you will find with Theory Y. And another thing that I looked about that was repeated throughout the article was the fact about emotional intelligence. And in 2009, Clark asked the question if emotional intelligence can be trained. Emotional intelligence has been suggested as underpinning a number of behaviours that are important for project management. But however, there are few studies that have conducted to date examining whether training can actually improve emotional intelligence. Not long ago, there was a sample of project managers in the UK attending training programs. And by using pre-post test research design, they saw positive effects that after 6 months within both emotional ability and their ability to understand their employees' emotions. So, I've shown you a few of my alternative views, and I want to give you some of my recommendations. Definitely, further research is needed. This is a quite early field where they look at optimism as an attribute for a leader, and if you can actually learn it or not. And I think that a research should be done where they take in what kind of project it is. Does it succeed or does it fail? As I mentioned before, is there a point of having a great work environment if all your projects fail? And I would be very interested in seeing how does this survey in North America relate to project managers in Europe or in Asia or in different parts of the world. So, before I take you to my application of this, I want to take a short summary of the presentation so far. I've talked what the article was about in brief. We've talked about the methodology in the paper, what findings there were, where we looked at that optimists rate their work environment as positive, whilst most of the pessimists rate their work environment as negative. We looked at some conclusion and critique, and I've offered some of my alternative perspectives. So, in application of this, in my life, I say that the fun factor is important, and I want to implement that when I work as a leader one day in the future. And I also try to implement it today as a student, where whenever I do group work, I say, well, I want to learn, but I want to have fun whilst doing it. And I think that a positive and optimistic attitude is important, and not only in your professional life. It's also important to make a distinction between positive and optimistic. When you're positive, you have a positive view of life, and when you're optimistic, you can tend to look at things that it's going to go great, it's going to be okay, it's going to work itself out in the end. And that's not what I think of as optimistic. It's important that even though you are having an optimistic view of things, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't view things critically and analyse it and do risk factors. It's really important still. So, having given you my view of this, I want to leave you with the last questions. Ian, you have to read it too.